Hi, I'm Maureen Rogers, and welcome to Curtain Call. And we have some very important people with us. The director and assistant director of our play that's starting on Friday, February the 7th, The Fires in the Mirror. So why don't you introduce yourself? And Jackie, I know that you're more than the assistant director, so tell them all that you're doing too.
Well, I'll let you go first.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Hume, like Zoom. I go by Jackie, and I'm the assistant director of Fires in the Mirror by Deavere Smith. I also play Angela Davis and Entozake Shange.
And I'm Lorraine Brooks, and I'm the director of Fires in the Mirror.
Well, thank you all for being here. I guess the first thing I'm going to ask you, Lorraine, is tell us about the play and why you chose it. And I think you were living in New York at that time, right?
I am from New York. I'm a native New Yorker, and this play took place in New York City in 1991. What happened was there was an act, well, the background is that the African American community and the Orthodox Jewish community in Brooklyn are notoriously, they have a lot of animosity between them. And, for various reasons. And so an accident happened that inadvertently pitted these two groups against each other. The Orthodox Jewish community saw the events in one way, and the African American community saw the events in a very different way. And so this play is the result of a series of interviews that Deavere Smith did with people who were either there or in the vicinity or had some connection to the events. And she put a play together that's a series of monologues based on those interviews. So that's what it's about. It's a very interesting study, I think, in how people see how people see themselves and how they see each other. You know, what sort of identity do you have? How do you know who you are? Where did you get that identity? Who told you that this is what you're supposed to believe? And who told you that those people are different than you? Or, and so it explores a lot of those issues. It's really, really very interesting and enlightening too.
So, were you living in New York
I was,
at
yes.
the time?
Mm-hmm.
And were you involved with it in any way at all?
Interestingly enough, I worked in Brooklyn. This took place in a neighborhood called Crown Heights, Brooklyn. And I worked at a hospital that was in the next town. So I worked in a hospital that was in East Flatbush, and then Crown Heights was the next town. And it just so happens that the hospital where I worked was the hospital where they took the victims of this accident, where they subsequently died. So, and I was working there at the time. So I remember a lot of the stories and a lot of the events that took place. And, being a native New Yorker, I grew up in New York, so I know that these two communities often don't get along. And I've always, and Jackie can tell you this too, one of the things that I try to bring out in this play is, yes, we're very different, and yes, we believe different things, but there are incredible ways that we're alike.
Oh, absolutely.
And we don't always see the ways that we're alike,
Right.
And I think that's just as important as the ways that we're different.
Oh my gosh, yes. We wouldn't have half the trouble we do.
Absolutely.
If everybody was that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Jackie, you're the assistant director.
Mm-hmm.
So is it hard for the two of you to direct and assistant direct, or are you just so finely meshed you can finish each other's sentences? No?
No.
Yes and no. Yes and no.
Yes, exactly. Yes and no. I mean, as directors, we both work on different things, and a lot of the times we have the same notes actually for the actors, so it really
great.
works very well. Sometimes we have different visions, right? Because we're different people.
Right.
And when we do, we just talk about it, and ultimately Lorraine is the director. So whatever vision she has is the one that's going
It's what
to be.
goes.
Exactly. But yeah, no, for the most part, I like to focus on the acting, like the minute details, the trees. That's what I really like.
Character
Laser.
development.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Character
I have
development.
noticed that with you, yes.
Well, and that's why we work well together, because she's more that detail, character development, acting skill type person, and I'm more the big picture person.
Right.
So I see the vision of the way I want it to look and sound and feel, and she works more directly with the actors. So I think it's a good combination for both of us.
Yeah.
So I think the play was written actually for just one person to perform, isn't that right?
Right.
And that's hard to get friends and family in and fill a theater. So you have many people in the show.
We have 15 people in the
15.
show.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. That's
Yeah.
great. Do people have multiple roles?
Well, Jackie has 2 roles, and there are a couple of other people who have 2 roles, and one person has 3 roles.
Oh my goodness, great. Great.
So it would have been more people. There are 28 monologues, right? So there could be 28 people theoretically, but I narrowed it down to 15, which is still a lot.
Oh, it is a lot. Yeah, especially for our little playhouse.
Right,
Backstage,
right. We're trying to work it out. I don't want to give away too much,
Absolutely.
but we're trying to work it out where there is more than one person on stage at a time. When Anna Deavere Smith originally did it, she did it as a one-woman show. So she played all of the characters.
She did. I
Yes,
didn't
she
realize
did.
that, yeah.
And that's how it was written, for her to play all the characters. But we have cast people who look like the actual people.
That's great.
So I think that's a little bit of a different
that's
spin on it.
interesting.
Yeah.
So what has been the hardest part from both of you, from directing and assistant directing this show?
Wow.
And the best part?
Well, for me, I think the hardest part was casting the right people to do the right parts, because I didn't want it to, I wanted it to resemble the people because they're all real people. So I wanted it to resemble the people that actually exist. And the other part was that it is a play that's set in New York, and New Yorkers have a way of being. And I was cautious not to have people try to sound and look like they're from New York.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? If you're from New York and you can do a New York accent, or you can sort of do that, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you can't, then for me, one of the hardest parts was to tell people not to do that, because we don't want to, make it look like we're making fun of people, or
Right,
we're caricatures.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So I think that was the most difficult part for me. The best part is just seeing it all come together.
Yeah.
Like I always say, we start out with just words on a piece of paper, and we look at the words and we're like, oh, how are we going to do this? What are we going to do? And then all of a sudden it's a play.
Yeah.
We have people, we have a set, we have an assistant director, we have a theater, we have people coming to see it, and
Yeah.
it's a thing.
And they clap.
And they clap, and they
Yeah.
and they tell us it was good, hopefully.
It's wonderful.
So yeah, that's the fun part for me.
That's great. How about you, Jackie?
I think the most difficult part was scheduling. With so many people and so many, different lives and conflicts, scheduling was definitely something that has been tricky this process.
Yeah.
I have to just interrupt you and say, we have not had one rehearsal where everybody was there.
Except for on Zoom, I think. Once on Zoom.
Right, but we have not had
Not in person.
one time in person where all 15 people were there.
I was like, it's wild to me.
That takes strength of character on your parts, doesn't it?
Yep, absolutely.
Please come.
It'll be fine though. That's the thing,
Yeah.
is that it will be fine.
That's
It'll
true.
all come together.
Right.
And that's the magic of theater.
Yeah.
Both of you have done many fabulous things at Laurel Mill Playhouse, so I know this will be just as fabulous. And I should say, while I'm thinking about it, is that Jackie is directing Romeo and Juliet,
Yes, I
her
am.
own adaptation. And she'll be starring as Juliet, so it's quite exciting. I'm the mother of Romeo. That's fun. He's such a nice guy. I love Matthew. So it's going to be wonderful to see, but you reminded me of that because that's a different language. And finally I'm beginning to hear it. It's not just words, it's like, oh, that means that. So it's great. Well, tell me about your character, though, that you're playing too.
Yes, I'm playing Angela Davis and Entozaki Shange. And what I love about both of them, they're both talking about identity in different ways, but they're saying that we shouldn't be so entrenched in one identity that we cannot work and move and identify with other different types of identities, right?
Right.
And work together. It's like Lorraine was saying, as different as we are, we're so alike at the same time, and they're both saying that. And you know, with the African American, especially identity, because of its history in the United States, it's difficult sometimes for them to figure out who they actually are, right? Because the past, you know, the ancestry is so jumbled and unknown for a lot of people. They don't always know who they are, and that creates conflict within the community as well as with other communities. Yeah, and it's interesting.
And Angela Davis, of course, during the 90s was a very political
I remember her,
figure.
yes, absolutely.
And she had a lot to say about exactly that, about identity and the politics and how we relate to each other and if we relate to each other. And so that's a really important character. And then Ntozake Shange is a poet and an author, and so she has a whole different way of presenting herself and looking. And so for Jackie, she has to really be two very distinct personalities, very, very different personalities.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge, which she, of course, meets.
Of course, of course. I love to watch her doing character development on stage with Romeo and Juliet. I should be doing other stuff. I'm spellbound. How does she think of all that? So I know she's a big help to you.
Yes.
So I'm glad that you both came today. And so it starts February 7th, runs for 3 weekends.
Till February 23rd.
Yeah, so it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Friday and Saturdays at 8 p.m., Sundays at 2 p.m.
And Sunday, February 16th, we're having a talk back after the performance.
Oh, that's great. I was going to ask you. Yeah, that's great.
So the audience will have a chance to ask the actors questions.
Oh, that's
and
great.
discuss.
That's wonderful. And then I have to put in a pitch for Jackie's show, too. That starts
March 14th.
March 14th.
Yep.
Right, and that goes for 4 weekends. So
Yes.
we're doing Friday, Saturday, Sunday for 4 weekends, and the last weekend we have a 2 p.m. Saturday show.
Exactly.
So bring your kids to that too.
Yes,
Right,
yes.
it's just wonderful, beautiful language, and everybody's having fun. And I hope that your actors are having fun
Oh
too.
yes! Oh my gosh! What a great group of
It
humans.
is. It's a great group of people. They all get along with one another.
that's great.
And you know, to have 15 people suddenly become a unit is really, really nice. And I think that's the point where we're at. We're actually a unit now.
Oh, that's
Yes.
great.
Yeah, it's
That's
really
great.
nice.
Well, thank you again for coming. And we're going to talk to one of the other actresses that is in Fires in the Mirror. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
All right. Nice to see you and meet you again. That's right.
The city prides itself on the leader of creating a more sustainable community, believing that a sustainable community is a strong community. As the leader, Laurel has taken the initiative to create strong legislation to reduce greenhouse gas emissions.
This is the kind of strategic effort that we need from all counties to make sure that we're able to meet Maryland's most aggressive greenhouse gas goals in the country.
Welcome back to Curtain Call. We have Lorraine Brooks, who is returning to the after the session, who is the director. And Margaret, introduce yourself and tell us about the parts you're playing.
Parts, yeah, it's two. So I'm Margaret McCabe-Janicki. I play in the show. I play Aaron M. Bernstein, who is an MIT physicist and a Hasidic Jewish gentleman, and I also play Reuven Ostrov, who is an assistant chaplain at downstate Kings County Hospital, which is where the young
Victims.
Yeah, the victims were brought.
And what prompted you to try out for this play?
Well, I saw the audition announcement come out, and it was, first of all, it was unique. I don't think I'd ever heard of a play of monologues before, so that was intriguing. Of course, kind of been wanting to work with Lorraine, so I had to try to get that in there. And also, mainly though, just the story, even though it is a true event that happened in the early 90s. Unfortunately, the sentiments and the issues discussed are still incredibly pertinent today. And as an actor, I feel probably sort of grandiosely, but I feel that I have a unique opportunity to tell stories and speak truths that not everyone is willing to tell or speak. You know what I mean? So it's, that was the kind of the main driving force, was I just saw that this is a story that I wanted to be part of telling in whatever way Miss Lorraine would have me. So,
Is it difficult to play two separate characters and keep them separate and not mimic each other?
yeah, that's a good question. It's a challenge for sure. I'm trying to think if don't know that I've ever played two different characters in one in-person play before, but I love that Lorraine assigned me the characters that she did, because they really are, they're polar opposites of each other. So Dr. Bernstein, Aaron M. Bernstein, he's at MIT, he's a physicist, he is a brilliant man. He's kind of like a mad scientist type of person, and he approaches the issues from a scientific perspective. He believes that if you just have the right amount of data and you're willing to see things in a scientific way, then problem solved. And of course, that's not completely right. And then Reuven, polar opposite. So I'm actually really grateful, because, if I think if they'd been more similar, there might have been an issue with one mimicking the other. But Reuven, of course, has had a very different perspective on this issue. He saw it. He saw the fallout immediately from it. And he's, got quite a bit of different perspective on it.
And Lorraine, here's a question for you. Why did you choose Margaret? What did she bring to the audition that made you want to cast her in the show?
I saw her audition on Zoom, first of all, or
Yeah.
It was a video.
It was a video,
not,
yeah, because I was traveling on the
excuse me,
audition
it was
day.
not in person.
Yeah.
So it was her presence. It's hard to communicate presence sometimes in a video or
Right.
when you're not in person. But there was something about her delivery and her poise and the way she presented herself that I thought this would be a good person to cast. And it just kind of, it was semi unintentional that she ended up playing two male characters. But I think it worked out extremely, extremely well, because the two characters that she's playing, as she just explained, are very, very opposite. And her range is such that she's able to bring that to the stage without, without a whole lot of direction, I have to say. We give her notes, give her notes and she picks up on it right
that's
away.
great.
And,
That's
it's
great.
always a pleasure to work with people like that.
That's a hard thing to do as an actor, is to, you want to take those notes and you want to
Yes.
do it, but sometimes it's hard to do it. It's out of your comfort zone.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. And I was just talking out in the green room about that one of the great joys of acting, but also one of the things that's the scariest, is when you do have to go out of that comfort zone. Like Aaron, for example, has a part in his monologue where he tells a joke that he thinks is hilarious, and he bursts out laughing. And that's not the easiest thing in the world to do. And it made me, like, one of the things I love about acting is it makes me confront my own, what is my comfort zone, and my own fears and my own doubts and whatever. And so that was that's the first time I've ever had a role where a person had to just burst out laughing. And it's strange. And Lorraine and Jackie, of course, were tremendously helpful and supportive as I kind of found my way to that. So
Yeah, I can imagine that is difficult.
it is. People think that crying is the difficult thing, and it is.
Yeah.
But laughing, we're used to like sort of deadpan humor, or like where somebody says something unintentionally hilarious, like it's not, they don't think it's funny and everybody else does. That's different. And like humor is so, but like bursting out laughing at something you think is funny, the character thinks is funny,
That the
humor-
audience doesn't necessarily think it's
exactly,
funny.
because it's kind of, he's, I love this character because he's such a mad scientist and he's very into his subject and he just thinks it's the funniest thing ever. But I don't know that anybody else does, But yeah, humor is really personal and really subjective. And I had to confront that. And I'm still, every rehearsal, I still have to confront it.
And I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I think that's part of the whole point of the play,
Yeah.
is that we're all comfortable in a certain, box that we put ourselves in, right? And then when we have to step outside of that box for any reason, whether it's acting, whether it's talking to people who are different than you are, whether it's going to a new city where you don't speak the language or you don't know, how do we negotiate that? What do we do with that? And if there's nobody to direct you, to tell you do it this way or do it that way. So how do we know how to do that? And so a lot of the things that we confront in the play in general is exactly what she just said. So
that's
each
interesting.
character confronts their own discomfort in things, and then the play itself confronts the discomfort that we all have about why do you think that's funny and I don't think that's funny, or what's funny about that?
Right. I've done that before.
So that's not funny, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't get that.
Right. And isn't that the way life is, right? We don't get that, right?
Right.
So somebody has to explain it to us,
Yeah.
or what one culture finds acceptable, maybe another culture doesn't find acceptable. You don't say that to those people, or you don't do that with these people, right? And it takes a while to understand that and negotiate that somewhat successfully, And in New York, you walk down one street and you're liable to hear 10 different languages and meet 10 different kinds of people, and it's not always easy to peacefully make your way through that.
Yeah, sure. Jackie, is this your first show at Laurel Playhouse?
Margaret.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's okay. That's right. This is my very first show at Laurel Mill.
Well, I'm
yeah.
so glad. What are some of the other things that you've done?
So
Your favorites?
Oh, my favorites. Well, I actually haven't been acting super long because I finally found the courage to do it right before COVID started. So that was, I finally, after more years than I'll admit on camera, of wanting to do it and not having the courage, I finally got the courage. I took a local adult beginners class in late 2019 and started auditioning in 2020. And anyway, so I did a bunch of virtual theater. That's why I'm saying I think I've played males before, but only in virtual. But otherwise, let's see, my last play was The Crucible at Dominion Stage. I played Rebecca Nurse, and I did Much Ado About Nothing.
nice.
Yeah, last year with Upstage Artists, and I played Conrad, who has, in my humble, not so humble opinion, one of the best lines in the play, which I don't think I can say here. But yeah, so I've been doing like some community theater work, some little bit of paid, professional work, just kind of whatever comes my way. I'm
That's
really
great.
grateful.
That's great.
Yeah.
And this is a good time for me to pitch auditioning at Laurel
Yes.
Playhouse. We're definitely a teaching and
Yes.
performing community, and we welcome new people. We don't have the same people at every show, and we want new people all the time. I didn't start until I was way in my 40s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, 44.
Well, I didn't, as you know,
Cool.
I didn't start directing until about 3 years
Right,
ago.
right.
Really?
When you,
I did not know that.
Yeah.
So,
I
and-
don't want to say how old I
You
was,
were-
but on the other side of 60, let's say that.
Yes.
And
It's never too late, though.
It's never too late. That's exactly
it's never
the point.
too late, and I think everybody should try it out, especially your kids, because it gives them such confidence.
Yeah.
I have a daughter that is fairly shy. You wouldn't know it now, but in class in college, she wouldn't say much,
yeah.
and then she had to get up and give a speech, and the professor looked at her and said, "Who are you, and what did you do with Julie?" And she said, "I work in theater."
There you
She
go.
became the person he needed her
Yeah.
to be. So
Yes.
it's good experience, and it's just a wonderful time.
And I have to say again, that is the magic of theater,
It is.
is that it all comes together in this magical way that you never would have expected. You get all these people from different places with different skill sets and different beliefs and different backgrounds and different ages and different ethnicities and whatever. And it works.
It
You know,
definitely, you can see it in the kids show. They become a tight bunch of kids, and they're from everywhere,
Yeah.
And it's just wonderful to see that they end up being best friends year after year. So bring your kids to audition at Laurel Mill Playhouse.
And your old people.
And old people. Yeah, we're going to, I got a deal here.
Yeah.
We're going to do an old people show.
Oh, are we going to do an old people
I think
show?
I've got a slot
Oh,
for
okay,
it.
good. Okay,
Maybe
good,
sooner than
good.
you wanted.
Okay, well, that's all right.
So, well, thank you so much both for coming out. Really enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you, Maureen.
very
And
much.
Show starts again February the 7th, which is a Friday, 3 weekends. Get your tickets online at laurelmillplayhouse.org. It makes it so much easier, and therefore you're also guaranteed of a seat. And the show has one intermission.
The show has one intermission. It's a rather long show. It's about 2.5 hours or 2 hours and 45 minutes, but it goes very quickly. You won't notice that it's that long, and there is one 15-minute intermission.
Okay. And there's plenty of places to eat right in walking distance of the theater. It's right next door is Olive on Main. Down the street is Oliver's
Tavern.
Tavern and Red Hot and Blue and Acapulco Grill.
I've not been there yet.
Yes,
I've not been there.
No.
Maybe we should go. Thank you all so much for coming, and we will see you next time. And we'll be talking about Romeo and Juliet with Jackie next time. Thank you again.